Alrighty, welcome on into Second and Short. We have a special edition for you guys this week. We'll be covering the NFC East, and we have a special guest this week. So it's myself, Ty Lauder, joined with Aaron, Benn, and Ken Hartley. Ken, welcome on into Second and Short. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Ty, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Aaron, good morning. How you feeling?
Good morning, good night, good evening. How's everyone?
I feel like everybody's doing great. Our tens of people. But yeah, let's there's a couple news and notes here. Let's talk about a really big positive that just happened. Christian McCaffrey, the man got paid $16 million a year, 4 years, $64 million. I've heard that it's going to be added after his fifth-year option for his rookie deal. So he signed through 2025. This is a massive contract, $1 million more than Ezekiel Elliott, who we'll kind of touch on here today. What do you guys think about this contract? Ken, go ahead and lead us off.
It's a home run. I mean, that guy's, when you let go of, the former face of the franchise, which I think you could agree was Cam for the past, several years, maybe 5 years, right? 6? How long has he been in the league? 6 or 7 probably. And then, the game has totally changed over to Christian's hands, and the amount of carries and receptions and yards, and just no off-field issues, complete exemplary character in that area, and charities. I mean, well deserved. I think it's a great sign.
Aaron, what about you?
I agree completely. It's a lot of money, but I think he deserves it. I think he is the player that he got the contract that Le'Veon Bell wanted when he was in Pittsburgh. Like, he totally deserves it because he's basically playing 2 positions out there, and yeah.
Yeah, that's how I kind of look at it. Like, he's getting paid for being like a top tier running back and for being like a wide receiver too, which on any team, that's where he would slot in. And I feel like you don't get that kind of value. I know a lot of people are ripping this contract because like Gurley and David Johnson, these guys sign these big contracts and get cut early and everything. But the difference between those and McCaffrey is like he's healthy, he's younger, and he's just more versatile in my eyes. Like, I feel like he's the combination of those guys. Now, are you guys surprised by this contract at all? Because like Todd Gurley got cut before his extension even started. Like, is this a surprise that Carolina's still willing to put this out there? Or do you think maybe they're just like doing this like they owe one to the fans?
Well, I think they have the money to spare right now, and they're kind of going into a rebuild, so I think they want him to kind of lead the team through this rebuild. So that's kind of how I see it. It's kind of surprising because he's not even finished with his 5th-year contract, or his 5th-year option, but I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, I think, Aaron's got it there on the head. He's still, and you said earlier, Ty, that is tied on to the back end of it. So, I think he's 24 years old. How old is he?
When the season starts, he'll be 24.
Yeah, he'll be 24 years old. So I think he's got his 5th year, and I think this one's guaranteed for 3 years, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
So he's looking at 27, 28, which, I mean, those are peak years. And again, he's going to be the face of the franchise. You got a new quarterback coming in there, but I think Christian's still going to be the workhorse, and he might change how running backs are viewed. I mean, these kind of players do that. So, maybe Alvin Kamara gets something similar. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what Kamara signs for, I think, to see if it's a good deal or not.
Well, what I find really interesting is like Kamara. I was looking on like Bleacher Report, and like Kamara's reaction to it was like the first thing, and it was like obviously it's all positive and good because that's only good for Kamara. But just like a couple days ago, Dalvin Cook was saying he's the best running back in the league and he deserves to get paid top money and everything. And it's going to be interesting to see if he'll be able to touch that money due to his injury history. But I mean, we can move on this. I like that we're all in agreement that this is a good signing. I personally like to see he's got good character. I like when good players get good contracts, like when they just make money. I like it. I support the players. That's me.
A man of the people.
Yeah. And just one thing before we touch out of there, in his 3 years so far in the NFL, he's got 2,920 rushing yards with 24 touchdowns, and he's got 2,523 receiving yards with 15 touchdowns. That's over 5,000 yards in his first 2 seasons, almost 5.5. That's insane, just to think of, from any position.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Small handful of guys have done close to those numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this is some positive news. We had some negative news happen recently. Aaron, why don't you let us know on what just happened really recently?
Well, former Minnesota Vikings and Seattle Seahawks quarterback Tavares Jackson was killed in a car accident a couple days ago. Also played a little while for the Buffalo Bills. He was 36 years old. I guess he's most known for his time with the Vikings. He played there before Brett Favre got there. And then he was bounced around the Seahawks, the Bills, and the Seahawks again. He was the backup when the Seahawks won their Super Bowl, went in and took the kneel down at the end of the game. But yeah, it's always sad when someone's life gets cut short.
Yeah, he, I followed him when he was at the Seahawks, and I also knew him. I followed him when Favre took over for that starting spot there. They had signed him away from the Packers, and everything you heard out of the camp was that he took it with such a grain of salt and was so humble about it, and just never complained, and looked at it as a chance to learn from one of the greatest quarterbacks. And for him to sign with the Seahawks after that, and then sit behind Russell Wilson, I think just kind of shows you the character that he is. And from everything that I've seen, all his teammates will vouch for him as just being a great locker room presence and a great character. And I think he had 3 kids from what I remember reading. And yeah, it's just sad. It's a sad turn of events. But rest in peace to Tavares Jackson.
Yeah, that's like sad to see anybody die. Especially very young. There's some not a good trend to see happen in 2020. Obviously, we all wish his family the best. It's a solid career, 17-17 as a starter. Started 34 games there out of 59. He had a couple decent seasons. His first season with Seattle, he threw for over 3,000, which I think is pretty big and shows a testament to how much of an athlete he was, because people didn't think he could be like a pocket passer and actually lead a team passing wise and everything, because he's just such an athlete. But yeah, it's kind of sad to see him go. He was coaching currently, right, Aaron?
Yeah, he was coaching that in 2018. He was coaching at Alabama State. He was a quarterbacks coach. That's where he went to school. And then last year he was quarterbacks coach at Tennessee State.
Alrighty. Well, now there's no easy way to transition from these things, but let's talk about
low snap. Prescott in trouble. Still up. What a touchdown run by Dak Prescott.
Let's roll into them. This Cowboys team this past year, had a really steady offense. They were 6th in points scored per game, 2nd in passing yards, 5th in rushing yards, and they were top 11 in all defensive categories. This team is, they them boys, they are probably going to make a run for the Super Bowl some year, as predicted every year. Let's talk about this team. Adds and losses. Who did they add that you guys think is a very big get for them right now? Aaron, you can lead us off.
Well, in terms of players that they added, they kind of shored up the defensive line, adding Gerald McCoy and Dontari Poe. They re-signed Sean Lee, and they placed a franchise tag on Dak Prescott. They're hoping to get that long-term deal signed with Dak Prescott. Also added depth at tight end with Blake Bell, and they added kicker Greg Zuerlein from the Rams, Greg the Leg. And then they added Clinton Dix at safety.
So, of those players that they added there, Ken, who do you think is going to make the biggest impact for them, like this first season initially?
got to tell you, I personally think it's the head coach. I think Mike McCarthy is going to come in there, change it up. This team has been the most puzzling team, I think, over the last 3 or 4 years. I think the Cowboys, like you said, are going to, potentially make another Super Bowl run, but they haven't done that. They haven't done that, and I think we can all agree the talent's been there. The offensive line has been stacked. They went out, they traded for Amari Cooper. They got a steal in Dak Prescott. In the later rounds, and they built up that defensive line. I think honestly they added Xavier Rhodes, but they lost Byron Jones. So I think that's kind of an even swap out, and I think people will think higher of Byron Jones, but I think Xavier Rhodes is a decent switch out there. But I think Mike McCarthy is really going to be what changes that team around. And I know they added Aldon Smith and Randy Gregory could be coming back. Those guys are both total wild cards, but if they can get an edge presence from either one of those guys, I think that makes that defense very dangerous. And when you got the hogs like those guys have, and Zeke is Zeke, so I think it's a dangerous team. But I think Mike McCarthy is the best.
I like that take on there because everybody's been wanting Jason Garrett's head for years. And for different reasons, I do agree. I think a coaching change can breathe, a breath of fresh air into a team. I mean, off the statistics I just listed, I mean, this is a really good team, both offensively and defensively. Play calling could just be the key right there. That could be all it needs to fix this. I do think losing Byron Jones and Jeff Heath out of the defensive backfield is going to be a huge loss for them. But I agree, if Rhodes can stay healthy, then that's a good get for them, because actually that's all that's holding Rhodes back from playing at an all-pro level. Aaron?
Yeah, I actually agree with Ken as well. Like, Mike McCarthy he's a Super Bowl winning coach already. So I think he is a very good add for them.
Now, the Dallas Cowboys are going to be drafting here at number 17. They just missed out on the playoffs. They're sitting in this weird middle spot that nobody wants to be in. I've been hearing rumors, and this is obviously, it's a dead time, so people are just throwing stuff out there. People are saying they could easily trade up and draft a quarterback. They could pair Dak in 17, get out of this contract situation, go get Tua, and be happy with their lives. Is a trade up going to happen, do you guys think? Are you think they're going to just move on because they still haven't signed this contract?
Well, one rumor that I read that I don't know if it has any basis in reality or if it's true at all is that because it's like a virtual draft and none of the teams are like going to be around each other, they're saying that there's going to be less trades. I don't know how much I buy into that or how much truth that holds, but I thought it's kind of interesting. In any case, I don't see them trading up to, especially not to get a quarterback. I think they're going to stick with Dak.
Yeah, I personally think that they're going to wait until the third round. I think they're going to stack up on defense in those first 2 rounds, shore up that secondary, maybe get an edge pass rusher. And I think in the third round, I think there might be some quarterback that they really like maybe a Jacob Eason or a Jalen Hurts or a Jake Fromm. And they can put that guy in the second string and not really put down or, damage how they feel about Dak. When you take a quarterback in the second round or the first round, the guy who's starting, I think, feels like his job's gone now. But I think if you take one in the third round, I think it's not as much of an insult. So I think they can find someone there in the third round. Mike McCarthy can watch him for a year. I think they can franchise tag Dak. And look, if they believe in the third round pick or even the fourth round pick and can save themselves $30 million a year, I mean, they got Dak. I mean, Dak has been the best bargain in football for the last 3 years, or 4 years now. So I think they kind of do the same thing. I think they roll the dice again and look for that, Jalen Hurts or who's very similar, to Dak.
I think the question is, would Dak play under the franchise tag or will he hold out?
That's a great question. He's been playing for only a couple. I mean, he was a fourth round pick.
Yeah.
Where was he
Yeah, fourth.
Yeah.
So he's
Yep.
playing for less than $1 million a year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know incentives.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's been making a lot of. I mean, he's making more money. I feel like off of endorsements than he actually is off his regular contract at this point.
But this franchise tag will be, I mean, north of 25 million.
Yeah.
Just 1 year at 25 million, and you know you're set for life. So I think he signs it.
So what I think, I think he's gonna sign it too. I think that you should take your money, and if they want to keep franchising you, you're gonna keep making more money. If you're gonna keep being a starter, it's not a bad thing. I like what you're saying. If Jalen Hurts is somebody that can actually get in the third, which he's kind of been moving up the boards and everything, that's a good player that is comparable to him. Now, them losing their biggest loss this offseason has got to be Travis Frederickson retiring. Losing that all pro center is going to be massive for both those players. I mean, he was a captain of that whole offensive line. I think they can replace him though with their first pick potentially. If they don't go defense, Cesar Ruiz out of Michigan, who can play anywhere from left guard to right guard and center, might be able to step in, be a day one starter. He's not as good, but he can be a day one starter, I think.
Yeah, I agree. They might even in the second round be able to get, like Cushenberry or Beardash from Wisconsin. Those guys can play the inside offensive line as well. So they might not even have to, because people are saying like taking a center in the first round is kind of a reach, even though that's exactly what Travis Frederick was. I mean, but I don't know if people have that high of a grade on Cesar Ruiz to take him at 17. But I mean, if they like him and they think he's their guy, they should take him.
I don't ever think guards get their like credit. Like you never see like rankings from anybody that have like guards ranked high or centers, just because they don't value them as much as they value other positions. And that's how I think it goes.
Well, and I think it's a harder position to for the layman to kind of go and evaluate.
That's fair. Okay, so you've already kind of given your say, both of you guys and everything. I'm gonna give you their first pick. We're gonna do this differently since there's three of us. Your pick 17. The board's gonna fall however you want it to fall in your head. Who do you have them taking? What do you think is the best option if everything falls how you think it would?
Well, I love what you guys both said. I like trading out of that spot, to be honest. And I think a team would jump up to get a receiver. You know, you're going to have a run on receivers between 10 and 14, and the Cowboys are sitting at 17. So I think you can get the fourth or fifth best receiver, like a Justin Jefferson, because we know the Eagles are going to pounce on him, right? Sorry for jumping ahead to the Eagles, but they're going to pounce on him if he's there. So I think trading out's the best. But if not, if we're just going to do a straight draft, I have it between two guys. I have it between Chaisson, the edge rusher out of LSU, who's just a freak of nature. 6'4", 250 pounds, just blowing up people. Or if they want to go cornerback, C.J. Henderson, out of Florida, if he's sitting there, that's going to be a tough call between those two guys, between Chaisson or Henderson is where I would go. And I would take the edge rusher. I always think you win Super Bowls with pass rush, so I would go Chaisson if I had to stick with the pick and he's there. Okay,
so we've established the fill in the need edge rusher. Aaron, you're on the clock at 51. First round, you've already taken your pass rusher. That's established. What are you going to go? What route do you think would be the best?
Well, I'm thinking I would probably go It kind of depends who's available. I was kind of wanting to draft cornerback in the first round, but I think in the second round at 51, you might have one of those wide receivers available. I was thinking kind of a speed guy to go along with Amari Cooper, someone like what's his name, Hamler from Penn State, who's a pretty speedy guy. He may be available at that pick. So that's kind of how I was thinking, because I think at edge, I would feel kind of confident with Alden Smith maybe coming back, maybe Randy Gregory. I think they're kind of more set at edge than they are at wide receiver or cornerback.
Fair enough. And One person we should touch on real quick before we switch off these guys. I've been saying this, and I'm just gonna do a hot take right now and everything. Michael Gallup is the best wide receiver on that team. I think he's better than Cooper. I think Cooper is the best route runner, but I think overall receiver, I think Gallup is the guy, and will show more consistently. That's just me. I've been saying it a lot lately, and so I figured I might as well just say it publicly. And so it's if I'm wrong, everybody can bash on me.
Yeah, we'll post your email in the comments later. So
Right, they have with Cooper and Gallup, you got great outside receivers, but I think Aaron really nailed it. I had KJ Hamler hopefully fall into Dallas in the third round there to be their slot receiver. I think that'd be a great pick too.
Alrighty, so let's move on to, I was gonna say the worst team, but there's two worst teams. Let's just move to the Giants. Let's keep it blue for a second.
Barkley again. Barkley, 15, 10, 5, touchdown Giants.
The Giants this past year, Eli Manning is gone. They switch over to Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, and the internet loves him. And it's funny because the internet just hated the pick when it happened, and now everybody's pretty happy that they actually went for it. Popular opinion tends to be wrong on first glance, but this Giants team, they were 19th in points scored, 18th in passing, 19th in rushing. That could kind of be because Barkley was hurt for a few weeks, but they ranked in the bottom tier from like 22 on to 32 in all defensive categories. And I don't think, general manager Dave Gettleman is happy about that, because that guy, he likes his hog mollies, that's what he wants. He just wants offensive linemen and defensive linemen. So, Aaron, break it down. Who did they kind of get? Who did they kind of lose? What do we know from this team? How's their offseason been?
In terms of their losses, was basically just Eli Manning, and then a couple of like depth players here and there. No one really. Mike Remmers at tackle.
Did they I don't think they re-signed Alec Ogletree either.
Ogletree, no, they haven't re-signed him. They added James Bradbury at cornerback, Blake Martinez from the Packers at linebacker, re-signed Leonard Williams, and then they added a backup quarterback at Colt McCoy, who's, I guess they're hoping would be that veteran quarterback presence to sit behind Daniel Jones.
So, Ken, any of those names drop? I mean, a couple names jump off. There's some playmakers at three different levels there. Defensive line, linebacker, and cornerback. Who jumps off the board for you for like a real big improvement for this team?
I honestly think trading out Ogletree for Blake Martinez is a huge pickup. But the probably biggest one is James Bradbury, coming in there. Bradbury, although he didn't have high rankings, he did cover number one receivers all season long. And if you look at, probably half of the games, he shut down, a lot of those number one receivers. The other half is kind of a mixed bag. So, but when it comes to like a nice upgrade, I think they upgraded the cornerback one position the best. I think he can cover, some good wide receivers in that division. He's got to go against McLaurin. He's got to go against Cooper. Philadelphia's got to go against maybe Jeffrey or Deshaun Jackson. And I think those are kind of downgrades from going against Mike Evans a couple times a year. For
and
sure.
Julio Jones, Michael Thomas.
Yeah, he's going against Michael Thomas twice a year, Mike Evans twice a year. So
Rashad Perryman.
Played pretty good against DeAndre Hopkins even too. So I think that's their biggest upgrade is Bradbury. But I do like the Blake Martinez upgrade over Ogletree too. I think he's a better tackler. I think he's faster. I think he can cover a little bit better.
And he's also cheaper. I think the pieces they added compared to the pieces that they've lost kind of show that they're moving forward and improving. The question remains what they're going to do with that pick at number 4.
Yeah, this team here, I'm going to stick with, I think all their ads are good. Yeah, I mean, keeping Leonard Williams on the defensive line is huge. Blake Martinez is an upgrade. Having James Bradbury, with how this team's depth chart kind of looked, it pretty much can like ease up on DeAndre Baker and forcing him to just like man everything going into year 2. and he can kind of sit back and cover number twos and develop a little more. They have a real nice setup of defensive backs. If they can fix that free safety spot and upgrade over Julian Love, who some people like, I think it'd be a really dangerous defensive backfield for them. This team, like you said, number 4 pick is crucial to this draft because they determine what happens, I feel like, for everything else. Like, whatever pick they make is going to have a huge domino effect. If they go offensive tackle, maybe they go Isaiah Simmons and they add to that, because, Lorenzo Carter and David Mayo are their other 2 starting linebackers. Isaiah Simmons upgrades those guys easily. And Isaiah Simmons can also play free safety. So, that fixes all these holes. You can move around a lot. And what if the Giants are somebody that trades back because somebody wants to leapfrog Miami? Chargers trade up to number 2 or 3, and Miami thinks they're fine. The Giants could get the world for trading back right now in that situation, so somebody could prevent Miami. This team needs to upgrade offensively. And a couple other upgrades are actually just in-house things. They need to upgrade at health. Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard, those guys gotta stay healthy. They have a nice receiving core here with Slayton, Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, and Evan Ingram. Plus you have Barkley, he's the main attraction there. The weapons for Danny Dimes is limitless right now. There's a lot of good options here. There's not a lot we need to touch on because they've improved on their defense what they needed to. How is this team going to get out of being, out of the bottom of the draft, the top of the draft? Like, they're drafting the top 6 2 years in a row. How are they going to get out of this hole?
Well, I feel like you said, it's like the first real turning point of this draft. They're like a real wild card because the first 3 picks, barring any trades, people basically agree it's going to be Burrow, then Chase Young, then Okudah. I think at 4, if it's me, I'm going with Isaiah Simmons at linebacker because he's by and large the best linebacker in the draft, and I don't think it's even close. And I think at the top of the second round, they're going to have a few of those like second-tier offensive tackles that they can take that will still be able to come in and maybe not start day 1, but play like a depth role and then start like eventually in a year or 2.
Yeah, I think, I have, in my perfect mock, I have Isaiah Simmons going 4th as well, like Aaron said. But I honestly think the first 4 picks will be 3 quarterbacks and Chase Young. And I think the Giants trade out of that 4th pick, and they can still get, there's 4 offensive tackles in there that all can go in the top 10. So if they can somehow pick up a second-round pick to move down 4 spots, I think they'll jump on that. If not, I'm going with Isaiah Simmons at the 4th pick, and then I'm hoping Austin Jackson, the tackle from USC, is there at the top of the second round. Judge, I think this is Joe Judge's draft to prove his identity, though. Is he going to be a mauler? Danny Dimes had, I think, 16 fumbles last year, right? Which is, he had half as many fumbles, or more than half as many fumbles as Eli Manning had in 16 years. So
18 fumbles. 18
fumbles. Eli Manning had 26 fumbles in 16 years as quarterback for the Giants. Danny Dimes had 18 in 1 year. And I don't even think he started every game.
Yeah.
It's, the offensive line is a major thing. So I think Joe Judge, who is Bill Belichick as you can get, if they want to transition to running the football, you could go offensive tackle with the first 2 picks. You could go with the Tristan Wirfs. You could go with the Becton from Louisville. You can go with the Jedrick Willis. They're just all so close. I think they can maneuver out of that 4th spot and pick up an extra second-round pick and get, the safety that you're talking about. You can move out of that 4th pick to go down, to 8, 9, or 10, somewhere in there, still get a tackle, pick up another tackle in the second round, and then get a safety in the second round, which is exactly what you were talking about. But.
Yeah, this team, and I think trading down is the best part, but I think the Giants right now, they're going to wait until the very last second because in a perfect world, like you said, 3 quarterbacks go first. Why couldn't quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3? And the Giants are sitting there and they get Chase Young Like, that will be the best thing for them in the world. It'd be insane if that happened.
Unbelievable.
I think
Then you could transition to a pure running attack and just, add to that defense year after year after year. And hopefully Daniel Jones develops.
I like the idea of Andrew Jackson in a second. I think the only problem with that is I don't know why, but I just think the Bengals are going to take him. I think after the Bengals take Burrow, they're going to try and get another offensive lineman to protect him, at 33. But you never know what they do. They need linebacker help as well. Stuff could fall differently, but if this Giants team ideally gets, so let's say they go Simmons, maybe they want to power up this defense, and all the tackles, the top 6 tackles are gone. Somebody like Antoine Winfield Jr., safety, he's a little smaller guy and everything, but he doesn't know he's smaller. That guy just flies around the field, and he could be a great partner with Jabril Peppers, I think. Aaron, what do you think would be best for them in the second round? Like, let's say, I kind of want to stick with this. They're going to get Simmons. They're going to get Chase Young. We're going to say they're going to get one of those defensive players. Do you keep adding to this defense, or do you want to flip it and see if you can get an offensive guy as well?
Yeah, I'm going offensive tackle at the second round if I'm them. I think, like Ken said, like Austin Jackson will be available. Like someone like Lucas Niang or Prince Tiga. One of those guys, I think, definitely will be available at that pick. That's who I would take.
A lot of people are kind of, I like you said, Ken, earlier, that there's like a big 4 of offensive tackles. However, though, I think this offensive tackle and offensive line depth is huge. I think there's going to be starters for offensive linemen in the 3rd and 4th round. I think I said this a couple episodes ago, but I really like Urza Cleveland out of Boise. I think that guy's going to be a starting tackle in the NFL, and he's like the 8th or 9th best tackle. I think this is a great year for teams that need to get guys that can protect your quarterback, because there's just so much talent. Like, if you want to improve your team, 2020 is the year to have draft picks. Like, there's so much talent everywhere.
Very true. It's an incredibly deep draft. One thing to keep in mind is they don't have a 3rd round pick, I believe, right?
They have pick 99. They got one of those compensation picks.
Oh, they got the compensation pick. Okay.
Yeah. So they didn't have their original pick, so they don't get the draft that would have originally been 68, I believe they would have drafted, but instead now they have pick 99. But this team, they also have 4 7th round picks. So I could easily see this team, like we're saying, they could trade down from number 4. I also could see them trading up to a 5th rounder, 4th rounder, and kind of moving up, just because nobody needs 4 7th round picks. That's just, nobody needs that much. If you can move up, there's a team out there, I think the New Orleans Saints have 5 total draft picks. That's a team I would target, and I would send 3 of those 7s and move up as high as I can. And so this team is going to be able to move around and play with this draft. Let's talk about the team that's right above them now. Let's move to the Washington Redskins.
Keenum's going to go deep, and he's got a man, McLaurin, who makes the catch in open field, and he's gone! A bomb to the rookie, Terry McLaurin, all the way for 70!
And I'm not bashing on these. If you're listening, Redskins fans or Giants fans, it's just statistically you were the worst. I'm not. It's not personal opinion. It's just what the stats say. But this Redskins team has went through another shift. We have yet another team in this division with a brand new coach. Ron Rivera has left Carolina and didn't have to go far to DC, which is good for him. I think he wanted to stay close to home. And this team right here, they need help in a lot of different areas. They have a lot of talent across the board, a lot of young talent, which is a positive. But they've got to deal with this Trent Williams situation first. Before we talk about adds and losses, will Trent Williams be on their roster after the NFL draft?
I really felt he would when Rivera took over. So it's not only a new head coach, but it's a new GM. And so when that sort of switch happens, again, Dan Snyder likes to be involved with everything, but I would think with a new GM and a new coach that they could have mended the fences, but it just doesn't seem like that. It doesn't seem like it's really happened. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, he's not going to be there. And I even have them hopefully trading for him for a second-round pick since they don't have one on that Montez Sweet trade last year.
Yeah, I agree. I think all bridges have been burned, and I don't think he'll be with them.
Yeah, I believe if Ron Rivera was there a year earlier, that maybe it could have been salvaged. Because I feel like, I mean, from everything I just hear, Ron Rivera is like a player's coach. He has great relationships with everybody he's kind of coached, and there's really no bridges burned from him. Now, I agree. I think he's going to be gone. A second-round get would be great for them. I've seen a lot of different moves, a lot of different projections and everything. I think they can get a little more than a second, but I do think that they might just settle and just say, get us something. Let's get a player back, an impact player that we can draft here. Do you guys believe that Dwayne Haskins is the guy?
I don't know if I believe. I don't know. It's hard to judge a guy after 1 year unless you're the Arizona Cardinals. But I think they can't. I mean, the obvious. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback in the first round this year in any case, because you have to give the guy more than a year to show what he's got. Dwayne Haskins, he didn't look like the top like one of the top quarterbacks like he was supposed to be, but you have to give him a chance to improve.
Poor Josh Rosen just getting roasted right now. For no reason.
For my opinion, that's what I go back to. When a new coach takes over, if you're going to go down with the ship, you're going to go down with your quarterback. So that's up to Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera has his choice for pretty much anybody except probably Joe Burrow, right, for a quarterback, and it's there's a couple other ones out there. So that's totally up to him. I mean, this is his ship at this point. We'll see. I think that's the turning point of the whole draft, is that pick number 2. Does he trade out of it, or does he stay there? And when he stays there, does he take Chase Young, or does he take Tua, or does he take Herbert? Who does he take there? I think that's the turning point of the whole draft.
I mean, I think when I think of Ron Rivera, Chase Young just like it screams like match. Like it's just a match made in heaven, I think. It's like what Ron Rivera would want every year is just some stud defensive player that's got a high IQ, a high motor, and can just do it. He's just a workhorse. He can just do it. And that's what Ron Rivera likes. And I think that he's going to try and find that. I mean, we've seen him bring some guys in. Now, the reason why I asked about Dwayne Haskins is because the Redskins recently traded a 5th-round pick, which they don't have a lot of picks, but they sent a 5th-round pick for Kyle Allen down in Carolina, who he was just starting over a guy they drafted in the 3rd round in Will Grier. I have this weird feeling that like Kyle Allen's going to get a legit shot to maybe start on this team and push Haskins. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback. I don't think so. I think I don't know how Alex Smith is progressing as well. I don't know if he's going to be able to ever play, but I mean, he's far enough removed where he's in his recovery process, but that's another quarterback on their roster there that would fit perfectly for Ron Rivera, what he wants. I think this might be the quarterback matchup to watch because it's going to determine a lot of things for them. If Haskins is the guy, or if they're just going to give up on him, go with Kyle Allen and just kind of tank at quarterback again for another year. Aaron, who did they add this offseason that can maybe help turn this offense around?
Well, first of all, they added Thomas Davis, who was that great Carolina Panthers linebacker for a long time. Spent a while with the Chargers recently. Obviously, there's the Rivera connection with Davis. He played under him for a long time, so he should be a good veteran linebacker on that team. They re-signed Brandon Scherf, like you said, traded for Kyle Allen, because I mean, it's kind of obvious Rivera likes him, wants him to come along and be their like backup potential starter if needed. Added running back Peyton Barber, added a couple cornerbacks at Kendall Fuller, Ronald Darby, and then they added the wide receiver Cody Latimer to come and play alongside Scary Terry out there. So that's in terms of who they've added. players they've lost, a couple backup quarterbacks with Case Keenum and Colt McCoy, cornerback Quentin Dunbar, offensive line Eric Flowers, and then cornerback Josh Norman.
So, Ken, of those guys and everything, let's talk about their gains. Because their losses, impact wise, it's obviously Josh Norman and Eric Flowers are big impacts, but bringing in people, Peyton Barber, that's a very interesting add for them because that running back group is kind of crowded. Darius Geis, Bryce Love, Adrian Peterson. Now they bring in Barber. What do you make of that move right there?
I think that move is purely a health move. You know, all the guys you mentioned have high upside potential. Adrian Peterson, first round Hall of Famer, the greatest running back probably of our generation to watch the last 10, 15 years. But when you got guys, Love, those are both, those guys were, top 10, 15 potential picks, but health issues, got in the way, and they're still getting in the way of them being. I think Barber comes in. I think he replaces Chris Thompson as kind of a third down back, a guy who can catch some passes, a guy who can stay healthy. The one move that I'd like to touch on that you hit on was trading, a fifth rounder for Kyle Allen, only getting a fifth rounder for Quentin Dunbar. I thought that was, very, very suspect. You pretty much traded Kyle Allen for Quentin Dunbar. So Quentin Dunbar is a highly respected cornerback in the NFL. And Kyle Allen did play some games, but I thought that was an interesting pick. I do love how they upgraded the secondary. I think Kendall Fuller is a good addition. I think Ronald Darby is very underrated. And I think Sean Davis at safety is a good add as well, too. So I think he's putting his stamp on here. And it starts, like what Aaron said, with Thomas Davis. So Thomas Davis is going to be the captain of that defense. He's going to call the shots. He's going to tell the players where to line up. And I think a lot of these Redskin moves were purely character moves. I don't know how long these players are going to stick around for. I think they're Ron Rivera's first-year players. They're character players. They're going to draft a lot of players, hopefully. They're going to learn from these character players. And Ron Rivera can really, move forward with this sort of culture that he's going to create there in Washington.
So what's really cool is I was just looking this up, and I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, so Thomas Davis is one of my favorite players of all time. I'll never forget how he tore his ACL 3 times in a row, and then ever since then he's just been an Iron Man. Since his 3rd ACL tear, here's a little stat for you. He's played 7 seasons on that. He's missed 6 games in those 7 seasons after tearing his ACL 3 times. This guy can still play. He started all 16 games for the Chargers last year. He racked up 112 tackles at age 36. It's insane how this guy can keep going. What's really interesting is nobody heard it because I obviously edited it because I made a huge mistake. I was being dumb, but the Kendall Fuller situation is pretty interesting because they traded Kendall Fuller away to get Alex Smith, and here we are just 2 years removed, and they just re-sign him, pick him back up. And it's just an interesting get. But yeah, that whole defense backfield is a great add. Sean Davis is a guy who I think is a really good safety, just kind of outshined by the Steelers bringing in Fitzpatrick is all it really was. He just got shined by a slightly better player. But Aaron, touch on this, gains and losses. What do you think is the biggest thing for this Redskins offseason?
Ooh, their biggest add is?
Either add or loss. What do you think is the biggest impact so far from their offseason?
I have to go with as much as I like Thomas Davis as a player, he's also 65 years old. I'd say their biggest ads definitely come in the defensive backfield with those 2 cornerbacks, Fuller and Darby, and Sean Davis. I think Fuller is a really good cornerback.
So the number 2 pick, here's what I want to know, because I don't want to really ask who you guys think they're going to take, because that's pretty obvious right now. Is it foolish for them to maybe trade out of this pick? Is Chase Young that good where you have to take him? Or is he just another, because every year we're seeing a generational defensive end, how we used to see generational, running backs. Should they just draft Chase Young, or is it foolish?
I think that term gets thrown out every year, like you said. There's Jadeveon Clowney was a generational defensive end, and then every year there's someone else. So, I mean, if the price is right, they could trade down. I wouldn't have any problem with that. But, I mean, they're not going to just trade, and they're not just going to give that pick away for anything. I think that a team would have to offer up a lot.
I mean, if you can combine Chase Young with Jonathan Allen, Darren Payne, Ryan Kerrigan, Montez Sweat, that's Ron Rivera right there. You know, get a ton of pressure on the quarterback with 4 and 5 man rushes. Have a great play caller like Thomas Davis. Maybe Reuben Foster can become healthy for a change. Thomas Davis can teach him how to call plays and get his body ready for the NFL like maybe nobody's taught him. Then I think you got to pick them. Their biggest needs. I mean, it's an edge pass rush. I mean, it's by far their biggest need. So, then you got offensive tackle and you got tight end and wide receiver and linebacker. You would have to get a Robert, Griffin trade return for that number 2 pick. The Rams sat in that number 2 pick years ago and just pillaged, the Redskins for draft picks to move up. So I think it would take something like that, which is, they might have got 3 or 4 first-round picks out of the Redskins, back then. So it would take something like that. I don't see a team doing that. So to me, it's pretty much a lock for Chase Young. And you can, like I said, you combine him with that front 7, and that's how you can win in the NFC East. I mean, the NFC East you can win in that big division right now. I got to be honest with you. The Eagles were 9-7, and the Cowboys were 8-8. So it's only a 4 or 5 game improvement, and you can get in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think if a team, they ranked 18th in passing yards allowed per game, but 31st in rushing yards allowed per game. I think Thomas Davis will fix the rushing yards allowed per game because, like you said, he's a smart guy, play calling. I think he can do a lot of mentoring. I think he did so much more for Luke Kuechly's game than people will ever give credit to, probably because we think of Kuechly so highly, which we should. But I think Thomas Davis being able to be that mentor for these younger linebackers could be huge. If in this division, like you said, if you can get constant pass rush and you can run the ball, which they have running backs, if their running backs are healthy, they are dangerous. AP is a power runner. Peyton Barber could catch the ball. He can kind of run a little up the middle. Geis, I still don't know what we can see from him yet. And Bryce Love, that's who I want to be healthy out of this team. Because Bryce Love, 2-3 years ago, was massive. He was great down in Stanford. He was better than Christian McCaffrey in college for 1 year. And then he went back for his senior year and made that mistake. But that's what I want to see healthy. I think trading out would be foolish. However, they don't have a lot of draft picks. They got a first-round pick, a third, 2 fourths, and 2 sevenths. If they can get 2 first-rounders and a second, if Miami would give them 5-26 and their second-round pick, I feel like I'd have to do it if I was the Redskins. Because at that point, you can still fall down, potentially still get Isaiah Simmons, or you could draft an offensive tackle and just replace Trent Williams right away. There are options there too. This Redskins team has already improved a lot defensively, and I think in the draft they're gonna have a lot of opportunity to just continue to get better. And I think by 2021, this team's gonna look really good. So let's finish it off. Philadelphia Eagles.
Sanders in the backfield. Wentz. Sanders. Touchdown.
The defending divisional champions here, as you said, 9-7. Carson Wentz, he had nobody to throw to. He has no wide receivers. And, if everybody's healthy, he's got somebody there. But everybody's saying right now they're taking a wide receiver. But if there's a run, like you're saying, I'm going to say it, Judy, Lamb, Ruggs, they're going to be gone by the top 15 picks. If the Broncos want to go wide receiver as well, boom. The Raiders want a wide receiver. They're behind them. We don't know. Maybe Miami wants to be weird and get funky and draft a wide receiver as well. I think the Eagles have to trade up to get another receiver. But they did make a big trade. They improved their defensive backs. They got Darius Slay. What was that trade exactly?
They traded him for a 3rd and a 5th.
So 3rd and a 5th round pick gets him Darius Slay, who, based on Pro Football Focus, graded out around a 60 last year. He had a kind of a down year. However, he is, when healthy, one of the best cornerbacks in the league. And being able to improve him right away is good for them. You know, they brought in Javon Hargrave, Jatavius Brown, Roby Coleman as well in the defensive backfield. They have slowly improved their team. I think the biggest get for them, though, is just health-wise. If Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey can get healthy, that improves their wide receiving core tremendously. Now, they lost Jordan Howard. Miles Sanders looks great. I think that guy's going to be a stud. They lost Malcolm Jenkins and, sadly, Nelson Aguilar and all of his drops. Is there a move that this team made that, like, really jumped out to you guys, like, from any of those that I said? Like, that was, I don't know, like, from offense, gaining or losing, anything?
The Darius Slay trade. I mean, that guy's a shutdown corner when healthy. And I love the Gravedigger, addition of Hargrave. I mean, that guy, good luck trying to run at him. And when you're going against, look, the Giants have Saquon Barkley, all right? If they're going to step it up, it's going to be through him. It's not going to be through Daniel Jones. It's not going to be through their defense. It's not going to be through their receivers. It's going to be through Saquon Barkley. When the Cowboys play against them, it's going to be Ezekiel. So stopping the run, when you combine Hargrave with Fletcher Cox, I think that's a major, major boost right there. So those two guys, to me, are, 1A and 1B.
Yeah, I agree. I think Darius Slay was the bigger addition because besides wide receiver, they had serious problems at cornerback. They had injuries, depth problems. I think they're down to about their 10th or 11th string cornerback. I received a phone call in the middle of the season asking if I could come play corner. So they're having pretty bad problems at cornerback. So I think the Darius Slay was a really good addition, and they added depth at corner with Nikel Roby Coleman, who also has experience playing at the slot cornerback in the NFL.
What I like is what you added on here, Aaron, is that their biggest gain was losing Nelson Aguilar. That's the best thing for this team. I like that get. So now let's talk about Carson Wentz for a second. Everybody's talking about Dak and how good he is, and the comparison's always going to be there. The same division. We hear it all the time. If you listen to ESPN radio and all those Cowboys fans that they have all over the station, they always say Dak is better than Wentz. What do you guys think? Like, Dak has these weapons. Wentz has a couple tight ends, Is Wentz not getting enough credit for what he's been working with?
I think that's the case, and I do think Wentz is a better quarterback. He just has a way of making stuff happen, and I think once he gets a couple actual legit wide receivers, yeah, I think he is a top 10 quarterback in the league, and he'll be better going into the future as well.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt Wentz is the better quarterback. I think you have to be on the field, though, to be the best quarterback. And I think that's what Dak hasn't. I don't think Dak has missed a single game his whole career. Where Wentz, even in the playoffs last year, when he went to Seahawks, it was a cheap shot. He got hit in the head and he got knocked out. But, he didn't win the Super Bowl for the Eagles. It was Nick Foles won the Super Bowl. The next year, he wasn't healthy as well. And even last year, he missed the play. He was out of that playoff game, I think in the first quarter, if I remember right. It was early. He was out of that game. So he can't stay on the field, and that's very troublesome for a quarterback. So, that's something the Eagles, I know it's not on their list to do, but that offensive line should be. If he had the Eagles' offensive line, I think he'd have. If he had the Cowboys' offensive line, I think he'd have less injuries.
That's actually what you just said right there is my favorite game to play. Is if this quarterback had the Cowboys' offensive line, how good would they be? Because that offensive line is just elite. I used to argue that all the time with Cam Newton. If he didn't have 3 undrafted free agents starting for him every year, how good could he be? Carson Wentz, I think if he can get the Eagles this year, if they draft a wide receiver in the first round, which they need to do, they should do, I think he automatically the top 5 guys will become their best wide receiver. Whoever they draft will be the best receiver on their team. I like the upside of JJ Arcega-Whiteside. I like his size. I like how he can go up and just get it. Having the speed of Deshaun Jackson and that veteran presence of Alshon Jeffrey, who's just like, he's just like a, I don't know how to describe him. He's just like a brawler. Like, he just like fights for everything. That team can slowly improve. Now, the biggest thing for Carson Wentz is those tight ends. He's got Zach Ertz. He's got Dallas Goedert. I think Dallas Goedert's going to be a star in the NFL as soon as Ertz gets out of there. I mean, that guy puts up really good numbers. He's a great blocker, and he's the number 2 guy. When should they start thinking about moving on from Ertz? Based on his age, like, should they get out of this sooner rather than later?
Well, I think Ertz has been, I mean, his production hasn't really taken a hit. It's been pretty consistent throughout his whole career. This past year he had 900 yards. The year before that he had 1,100. I think as long as the production's there, I don't have a problem keeping 2 really good tight ends on the roster.
Yeah, I don't think offense is their problem right now, but you know, if they have to switch a year or 2 down the road, then he could definitely be a cap casualty because, like you said, their second guy is pretty good, but right now, you know, you could, to protect Wentz, you could go with 2 tight end packages, multiple, you know, for the most of the time. I mean, both those guys can block, both those guys can run, both those guys can catch it. And when you got a receiving core like they have, which is not much of a receiving core, even if they draft a receiver in the first 2 rounds, or even 2 receivers in the first 2 rounds, receivers take, you know, 2 or 3 years to develop. So I would say keep both those guys for at least the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, now this is one of those teams we see a couple teams do this where they will double down on a position. You know, they'll get somebody early and then about 3rd, 4th round they'll come back around to it. I think for sure that the Eagles are going to do this. I think that they are going to come back around and they are going to draft a receiver in the 1st round and probably the 3rd, like really early. And in this draft, I've got like 15 to like 18 guys that I think can be wide receiver 3 contributors at worst. This is a good year to need a wide receiver. So let's move to them. 21. The draft 21, you know, we want them to get a receiver. They don't come back around until 53. That's a long time. Are they going to trade up? And if they trade up, who is the ideal wide receiver for them? If we're going to say if they trade up.
I think if they trade up, I personally like CeeDee Lamb because he's a big, tall guy and he can go up and get those balls. But I think maybe it would be better to get Jerry Jeudy because there's no one like him in terms of getting separation and route running. And I think he would be a great complement to that wide receiver core because they already kind of have Alshon Jeffrey who can be that big-bodied receiver. So I think Jerry Jeudy would be the optimal pick. But I mean, I don't really see that happening. I don't think they'll trade up. But that's who I would get.
I think they're going to have to trade up to get a receiver. It's not going to be the main 3. I think they're going to have to trade up to get Justin Jefferson. I think they're going to have to give away that 3rd round pick they got at the end to move up to, you know, possibly 16 or 17, because somebody will leapfrog them into that 20 spot or that 19 spot to get Justin Jefferson. There's no way Justin Jefferson gets to 21 for them. So I think they're going to have to trade up and leapfrog them. If not, they're going to be stuck with T. Higgins, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, so if they trade up, I think they get Justin Jefferson. If they stay there at 21, I think T. Higgins is there.
I mean, this team has 10 draft picks. I think they could trade up to number 13 is like as far as I see them moving. I've seen somebody predict that they trade up to like number 7 with Carolina and give up like a future first. But like, I think 13 is a good spot because the 49ers only have like 4 or 5 draft picks. After they draft at 13 and 31, they don't draft again until the 5th round. And it's not that the 49ers have a lot of needs, but that's just a large gap. And I think some teams, some general managers, they're going to want to draft some more, especially with how star-studded this draft is. They're going to want to save cap space while they can and draft these young guys in cheap contracts. I could see them giving up their first and the second, going up to 13. If, let's say, Judy and CD both fall to 12, let's say the Jets are sane and they draft an offensive tackle and the Raiders take the first receiver, they could jump up and take whoever falls. Now, that's an interesting question there because we're talking about them. What about Henry Ruggs? Like, where do you guys put him? Is he the third best receiver guaranteed for you? Because some people say number one.
Henry Ruggs, I think the top three are without question Judy, Lamb, and Ruggs. I think they are unquestionably the top three. Ruggs I think gets a bad rap because people kind of see him as just a speed guy, like just Darius Hayward-Bay or Ted Ginn, like a speed guy. But Ruggs has really good hands too. He has very strong hands, and he's like a kind of a stronger player. He can break tackles if he needs to. So I think he does get kind of a bad rap just because of how fast he is.
If you asked, I think maybe 10 general managers, you would have different answers from all of them as far as those three guys go. The Judy, Lamb, and Ruggs are just right. I think they're just tied. I think they're completely tied. So I think if one of them drops, like you said, down to 13, I think you got the Jets there. I think you got obviously the Raiders, and then you got San Francisco. But I think San Francisco, like you said, they're lacking draft capital. They're very top heavy. They could trade out of there, and somebody could slide into there. I think all three of those guys are good. I mean, it's just a tie. It's just who you ask.
I mean, Carson Wentz has the arm to take advantage of Ruggs' speed, and I think all it comes down to is like Judy is like the best route runner in this draft. And then, CeeDee Lamb, I think, has the highest ceiling, in my opinion. I think he has the best chance to be an elite wide receiver. I think Judy's the safest. And I think, Ruggs is a wild card. Only because of recent bias on how fast wide receivers, that run under 4.3 can't be effective in the NFL. However, Ruggs is a great route runner as well. So I think whoever the Eagles get, even if they don't get those top three, if they get the fourth best in Jefferson, they're going to be better. They're going to be improved. This division is wide open. I agree. Anybody can win this division. I think whoever has the best draft here can step forward next year and win this division because they've all had decent off seasons. I like all their moves they've all made. This has been a good division overall. That's going to do it here for us on Second and Short. Ken, thank you for joining us here, being our special guest. I'm really glad that the NFL sent you. Talked to Roger Goodell. Got you here tonight. I'm really excited what we got going for it. I mean, we've got the NFL draft coming pretty soon. It's like Christmas for football fans. Is there anything else you guys would like to add?
I just wanted to shout out Northside Taco Bell in Rapid City. Only one's open late at night during coronavirus, so good on them.
Again, this is Second and Short. If you guys like what you're hearing, click that like button. There's a subscribe button down there in the bottom right. Check out all the rest of our videos here at the top right here. We got a playlist for you guys of all divisions. We'll be covering the AFC East in our final division. Again, I am Tyler Lauder. He is Aaron Benn. Special guest Ken. Thanks for joining us. You guys have a good night.